All right. Awesome. Okay. So, bro, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show. Broine kaiyil kittan ichiri paadanu because I tried texting you and Instagram and all that. I think you don't use a lot of Instagram, right?
First off, thank you for having me.
Of course.
And to answer your question, it's not that I'm not on Instagram much. I think I use it only for either posting political content or to maybe interact with people, which I don't do as much as I'd like to. One, I mean, all the stuff that's happening online, it kind of pulls you down at times. So I'm not a big fan of social media, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, it's not good. You need it as an artist and as somebody who's, trying to make a name for himself. You obviously would need it, but it's not all that healthy is what I'm trying to say.
I've had the same experience, since I started this channel almost 6 to 7 months back. I was always looking at Instagram and checking, നമ്മൾ എന്തെങ്കിലും പോസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എത്ര ലൈക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്, എത്ര കമന്റ്സ്. And then for some reason, കുറച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, it used to create a lot of anxiety. As in, I used to I don't know, the whole vibe used to change and you're just, going to your phone all the time and, scrolling, looking at that. And then once I stopped, doing that regularly and, where I used to use Instagram every 1 hour, even if I'm at work, I'm working on something, ഇടയ്ക്ക് നമുക്കൊരു ബ്രേക്ക് കിട്ടുമ്പോൾ ഒരു 5 minutes പോയി Instagram നോക്കുമല്ലോ. Since I stopped that and only look at it at a particular time, I can actually say that there's been a lot of change in the way I feel. So that's the reason I asked you. Yeah.
Right. And there's this constant, how do I put it? It's like you're always judging yourself. You're trying to be somebody that you aren't. You have to have different personas. I'm not denying the fact that you have to have different, personas of somebody as an artist. At least the way you interact. I'm not saying that you have to be fake. Your art has to be real. But you can't put your personal life out there, right? If you're an artist, you can't put your personal life out there. I'm not big. I only have about 4,000 followers. It's not much. I can only imagine what these celebrities, could be going through.
Yeah.
Having to, keep your personal life to yourself and trying to find that balance is a little difficult. And then you keep looking at other people's posts. You try to see if you're better than them. It's a rat race is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
And I don't want to be in that rat race trying to be the best rapper or the best artist, the person who has... Some people crave that, some people crave followers and likes. And if you are that person, if it works for you, then great. I'm not judging you. It's just that it's not for me.
Totally. No, I mean, even, I can kind of relate to that because ഞാനും, looking at other people, posting a lot of content, being a content creator, I used to think, am I doing enough? ഞാൻ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഇത്രയും, am I really going to make it? But then I kind of changed the whole thing where, what am I really trying to do? I just want to connect with people, bring out, artists, give them a platform to speak while even I have a platform to speak. It's like a two-way thing, right? I'm putting my thoughts out there and your thoughts are also coming in.
Absolutely.
So that's the whole point. And once I, shifted that focus from looking at what other people are doing, our judgment into the matiyapam, it's like a huge difference. And you don't find a lot of people who stay away from social media. So that's the reason I wanted you to ask that first of all, because when you see someone is not really responding that quick, you know that they're not always on their phone and you have also written verses about, social media and apps and all.
It would be very hypocritical of me to, say all of that and be on social media all the time.
Yeah.
So people who know me know that I'm not, I'm a lousy texter. I mean, if you text me today, I'm probably going to respond in a week's time.
Yeah, I've seen
so
that.
my online presence is a little weak.
Right.
But if you meet me, I assure you, I'm I can be a handful. I'm not going to stop talking. It's not that I'm quiet. It's not that I'm an introvert. It's just that this online thing isn't for me. That's it.
Yeah. അല്ല അതിപ്പോ തന്നെ once we started speaking I could actually see that like ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ
Right.
text ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ the person you are and when you actually
Right,
I think that perception also of people ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ ഒരാളെ text ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴുണ്ടല്ലോ like you start to think that the way they respond is the way they are but there's a filter there right ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ screen through your screen so it's like I think people judging people just by looking at their texts and seeing who they are on social media that has to change and thanks to COVID, it's like increased a lot more, right?
Right. Now I think knowing a person personally, or even getting to know him close. I mean, when I say you don't have to get too close to him, at least having a face-to-face conversation, that thing has pretty much been non-existent for the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I joined the new company that I worked for. I joined it during the pandemic. I've not seen any of my colleagues, my peers. I've mixed tracks online without meeting the person that's actually doing the mix and master. I've produced tracks sitting with people online. Now, I prefer all of these interactions to be face-to-face.
Yeah.
I'm not an online guy at all. In fact, I fucking hate being online. This virtual space is kind of, it's kind of unnerving for me.
And I can relate to that really well because I joined this new company that I work for on March 16th of 2020. And that's the same day that the lockdown started. So
Right.
Even I haven't really seen anyone apart. I think, we met a few people here and there after that first wave because people started getting out and all that. Pakshe, allande, all these people you work with, you just have an idea of what they are like, but you don't really. So it sucks. It does suck.
Just an idea in your head, right?
Yeah, that's what. So you kind of judge people based on that interaction you have on Skype or on Teams and you're all the time on calls and then you have your usual life, your normal life where you used to get out of office and get out, see people, that's also in virtual spaces, right? I mean, when I see my friends, it's also on a WhatsApp call maybe, when I see them online. So yeah, man, it sucks and let's hope that this third wave doesn't, I mean, I don't know.
I'm not too hopeful, man.
Even I'm not too hopeful.
I don't think.
It's
slowly on the way.
Yeah.
Maybe in a
they've started, if you look at Himachal and all these places where people have started, as doing touristy things again, it's like inevitable, right? I mean, it's going to happen, it. So, I
mean, Harris ഒക്കെ പറയുന്ന, you know Harris, right?
Yeah, I've spoken to him, yeah.
ഹാരിസ് പറയുന്ന വെച്ചിട്ട് ഇപ്പൊ ഈ എല്ലാ ഒരു പാൻഡമിക് ഇപ്പൊ സ്പാനിഷ് ഫ്ലൂ വന്നപ്പോഴും ഫസ്റ്റ് വേവ് സെക്കൻഡ് വേവ് there has always been a third wave. So idinu oru third wave undav and then herd immunity and all of that, it doesn't really matter, man. I think I've sort of given up on
you kind of accepted the fact that this is how life is going to be for the next few years, right? Yeah, but I mean, let's come back to Street Academics, the music and stuff like that, bro. Like, first of all, like, props to you guys. I say this to everyone who's been a part of Street Academics that I've spoken to. But last I spoke to was Earthcrime, the last episode that I had. And when I was speaking to him also, there's just a lot of respect that's there because you guys started doing this when there was no one in the scene. And a question that is probably going to be repeated even when I speak to, Harris or when I speak to RJV. നിങ്ങളോട് എല്ലാവരും സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോൾ the one thing I always have in my mind is, when you started, like when you don't get a lot of social validation and you don't have a lot of people listening to your music, what is it that kept you going and what was the hope that you had in your mind for hip hop?
Okay, I think this is a pretty long story and there's no way at all that I can sum it up or give it to you in a nutshell. It has to be a long story. And that's
yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I guess my journey started when I met Harris. We were in fact from the same school. So we went to the same school, and before that I was rapping, but then I'd never written anything original. I was rapping over people's verses and I still remember I used to have these 3-deck CDs. I don't know if you remember those
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
3-deck,
Yeah.
they would just spin around. So
Yeah.
I'd put these 3 CDs in there, all 3 of Eminem's albums, and I'd just go full ballistics on it, and I'll just go through the entire album, all 3 albums, and I'd know every word of it. So that's the person I was before I met Harris. I just knew about rap. I didn't know about the technicalities. I didn't know if I could do it and all of that. But then when I met Harris, I told him that, and the story, I've told this in interviews before as well, but it's nice. It's always nice talking about
Right.
revisiting those
Yeah.
moments. So these guys, I was in 11th and then Harris a plus 2 late. ഇവന് ഇവനപ്പം നമ്മുടെ ഈ റാഗിങ് ഉണ്ടാവുമല്ലോ, അപ്പൊ ഇവന്റെ ബാച്ചിലുള്ള ആൾക്കാര് എല്ലാം കൂടെ കൂടിയിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ റാഗ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി വന്നതായിരുന്നു. അപ്പൊ നമ്മള് റാഗ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോ പാട്ട് പാടാൻ പറയല്ലോ. അപ്പൊ എനിക്ക് പാട്ട് പാടാൻ അറിയില്ലായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ എമിനെമിന്റെ ഒരു വേഴ്സ് റാപ്പ് ചെയ്തു. ഐ തിങ്ക് റെയിൻമാൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു പഴയ ട്രാക്ക് ഉണ്ട്. അതാണ് ഞാൻ അവിടെ അന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത്. അപ്പം എന്നെ ക്രൗഡിന്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ ആ റാഗ് ചെയ്യുന്ന കൂട്ടത്തിൽ ഒരാളാണ് ഹാരിസ്. So I didn't pay. I didn't know that he was a rapper back then. And then pitte ദിവസം I think we met and we spoke about hip hop and I told him who my favorite artists are. And he spoke to me about a bunch of dudes that I hadn't even heard of. But I realized later that these guys are absolute legends. Yeah, and chances are most of the people that rap today wouldn't have even heard of their name. Yeah, but back then they were huge. Not just back then, they're still legends. They're always going to be legends. But I hadn't heard of them, and I was like, why don't I know about these people? I started listening to their songs. So it was a process meeting him, and then I started listening to these people. If I had to name a few artists that I was influenced by initially, it's Immortal Technique, one, Jedi Mind Tricks, R.A. the Rugged Man, Rakim, a lot of Rakim, Rakim, a lot of Rakim. Nas is again somebody who had influenced me a lot initially. And then Tribe Called Quest, Mos Def. Now, I hadn't heard even a single name of all the names that I mentioned right now. I hadn't heard even a single artist. So once I started listening, I was like, man, I want to do it. That's when he started sharing his tracks with me. I didn't know that he rapped, right? I mean, I knew that he rapped, but I didn't know that, he's the first person to have spit Malayalam bars. Or the first time I heard Reppin' the Truth, I was like, wow, man, can some people rhyme like this in Malayalam?
Yeah.
And for a 16-year-old kid, that was, awe-inspiring. I mean,
right.
It was nothing short of magical for me. Hearing it and then knowing that, that it can be done in Malayalam as well. Nobody's even thought about it.
Yeah.
We could be the first ones. And that's when I started talking to him. And my initial lyrics, to be honest with you, were full of braggadocious, gun bars and Lamborghinis and stuff that I could never, maybe I'll have it one day, but
let's hope so.
Yeah. I could not, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Whatever I was writing about. So I sort of got together with Harris and then I met Rajivan as well. And Rajivan's also a very complicated guy.
Yeah.
Complicated would be an understatement. I don't know. Not that he's a bad guy. Okay, he's
totally understandable. Yeah.
Sweetest people that I know, but he's complicated. His convictions are so real that his personal life and artistic life, it's sort of. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay.
Pick up for yourself. Speak to him, you'll know.
Yeah.
So I met him, and he is an intellectual. I mean, so we have these people that study about art, right? So he knows the history of hip hop like the back of his hand. So he'd sit and explain to me that this is how it started, this is rhythm, this is flow. So he's sort of like what do you call it? He's the KRS-One of, if you've heard of KRS-One,
no, I haven't.
He's one of the pioneers of old school hip hop.
Okay.
And what makes him, and he has a PhD in hip hop. So
Oh, really?
that's kind of guy.
I didn't know you
He's,
could take a PhD in hip hop.
yeah,
Okay.
you can.
Okay.
His paper was on linguistics and how I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you can look it up. But he teaches. He goes to colleges and teaches. Rajivan's that kind of
Yeah.
a guy. He doesn't really give two fucks about what you think. Or by the way, can I swear?
You totally can, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't give two fucks about what you think and all of that. So he gave me a lot of perspective. So I collected all of these inputs that I got from Harris, and then I think I started writing in 2000, early 2009,
Mm-hmm.
and my first song came out in 2010, I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
2010.
I think your first verse was Getting Higher or something like that, right?
Yeah. So that was the first release track.
Okay.
Back then, it was, to record a song was, it was a
It
very
was a big
tedious
deal, yeah.
process. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So we go to Harris's house and we had this makeshift pop filter. I still remember it.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else has spoken to you about it. It's very
Yeah.
stockings
Yeah,
and
yeah. Right.
and these crochet embroidery thing, the ring that you get. So we made these pop filters with it, and we had a mic that Harris bought for $250, but
Okay.
that died in whatever 2-3 days. But then we got another mic,
Okay.
so it was tedious. And then it all started with Getting Higher, and initially when we started putting out tracks, I was young, right? I thought, I was a fool, and I thought, these songs are going to be a big hit. When you're young, you have
Yeah, totally.
so I thought these songs would be a big hit, and I was heartbroken that nobody was listening to it. But it had its own, niche. It's a niche thing. It
So
was a niche thing
I
back
think
then.
to some extent, Ippurum, don't you think it's still niche? Don't you think it's still there is an audience definitely, but there's not an audience that would go and actually search and look for good music in hip hop. Like, let's take the example of Pani Pali. I know we are diverting a little bit, from the topic, but if we take the example of Pani Pali, that's the kind of track that, people could sing along with, there's a thing to it, right? There's that vibe to it. And a lot of people probably know about that, but I always talk about this example where people don't know about the producer, or people don't know Arcado. He's such a brilliant guy. People maybe don't know V3K to the extent that he has to be known. But angana nokumba, I think it's still a very, very, very small audience. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Okay, I mean, you've been here for a long, long time, so you know better.
So I mean, give me a number. Take a guess. How many people, or how many plays did you think we got on our releases? Like back in the day in 2009 or 2010. Take a guess. Give me a number.
150.
Less than that.
Oh, really?
Probably less than that. Probably less than that. It was that bad. I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, but the quality of these 150 people that actually listen to it, that's something else. And I think we will discuss that in a bit. But to answer your question, from 150 to 10,500, even if it were to be a small amount of growth, I see it as an exponential growth from what it was to what it is right now. But there's still a lot of, it still has a lot of room to grow. It's still a niche thing. I agree with you 100%. But for me, as somebody who's seen it from ground zero, I think this is great. I'm happy, and I'm happy for the people that are doing it right now. At least you have a platform. This is not one of those lectures where I'm from the, I'm old and I've done this.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to do. I just want to explicitly state that it's not that I've been doing it for so long and that I'm, these guys have it easy. No. They have their own challenges. We had our own. But you guys are lucky that at least, there's a platform. We are lucky that we have a platform, is how I should be putting it, right?
Yeah.
So all of us have a platform now. Whether or not it's enough, that's another question. But there is a platform, yes. And speaking about producers and all of that, I think you are partially right. This is just my personal opinion again. It could be, again, controversial, but yeah, this is just my opinion. So when you sign up to be a producer, Let me give you an example so that you can relate to this
Yeah.
better. A director and an actor.
Hmm.
So you choose to work behind the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you chose this. Yes, you're right. You need a lot of attention. People should be giving you credits. All of that is right. But if you are expecting, to be as as famous as the rapper,
Hmm.
that's not gonna happen. That's if anybody's told you so, then you have been given a false promise.
Right.
Your game should be to make money, make a name for yourself, be famous, whatever you can do. That I absolutely agree with. But if you want to get famous and if you want your name to be plastered on all of these things that you put out, then I don't know. That's not how the whole producer rapper
Hmm.
thing works,
Hmm.
right? Yes, you deserve attention. I'm not saying that you don't deserve attention. Yes, you do deserve attention, but you chose this line of profession. I chose to be a rapper, you chose to be a producer.
Right.
So your work is behind the screen, not that you should stay behind the screen. So when you signed up for it, this was in fine print. Whatever
Yeah.
you're going through right now
Totally.
was in fine print.
Yeah. No,
So you
I guess, yeah, you're right.
yeah. I mean, it's a what is it? It could be a controversial statement, whatever I just said, but I guess that's what I feel. And yes, when you talk about tracks like Pani Bali and all of that, this guy has that much fame.
Yeah.
So the people who actually worked on it might not have gotten the right amount of attention.
Hmm.
So in certain cases, that's right. In some cases, I think it's just your ego talking. Some people, most of the most of the issues that I've heard of and experienced in my years, in all my experience, it's largely owing to the people's ego. I mean, it's an ego battle. I'm bigger than you, you're bigger than me. I do most of the work, you do most of the work. When in reality, it's everybody doing the same amount of work, right?
Yeah.
So I think that question is. I mean, I hope I've been able to answer that
No,
question. That's just my
totally.
opinion.
No, totally. I mean, that obviously makes a lot of sense when you took the example of if a actor versus
Director.
a director. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you're right to,
But who's big? Think about it. Who's big? The director is obviously doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
He's the brains behind it. But the actor's face is going to be plastered on all of these
Right.
posters and everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's just a trade-off that you have to make. So
Right.
if I tell a producer tomorrow that, you know what, bro, I'm going to get you famous, I'm going to get you in, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Maybe I can do that. But the way the industry is and the way it has been, you've chosen a profession, you've chosen a line of work that requires you to be behind behind all
Right.
the hustle, not the hustle, what do you call it? Behind this Aniyara Pravartakar in English, yeah, whatever that is. Behind the people who work behind the screen,
See,
behind
yeah.
the whatever, yeah.
Right. No, totally. But I mean, I'm really happy that when you spoke about, being really happy about the fact that this is where we are right now. And I would think, like, ende manasil, if I maybe the whole, it's just a thought that I have that if 10 വർഷം മുന്നേ ഒരാൾ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട് like maybe your expectation is that it would have become a lot bigger, but you're like accepting reality and being content, being grateful that you have the platform. So it's really nice to hear it that way rather than being like no, we expected it to be a lot bigger. And if you look at നമ്മുടെ Hindi rap scene ഒക്കെ നോക്കി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ obviously they have a bigger audience, and I think a lot of their rappers are actually able to make a full-time living off of this. But let's take the example of you or a lot of other people. You have to freelance or you have to work a regular job like you do and stuff like that. So like something that I have personally in my mind is that I wish I could just do this all the time. But unfortunately, I only earn few cents from doing this, right? I mean, there's no revenue coming in. I can't live a life. When did you make that decision that I love this, I'm going to keep doing this, pakshe I have to go get a job and I have to sustain, and in order for me to keep doing my music, I'll have to get a job as well. അതെപ്പോഴാണ് ആ ഒരു മൈൻഡ് സെറ്റ് മാറിയത്? Because as a teenager or as a like when I was 21, 22, I never wanted to get a regular job, because it was like, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to sit in a, on a desk 9 to 5 and, do this. And I always hated that till maybe, I've actually accepted the reality that this is how it's going to be, till maybe something drastic happens where I'm able to make a full-time living off of this, or something, some opportunities open up. So when was that thing for you?
I think so. I messed up royally in a lot of things. Yeah. So I think I screwed up college a couple. I've been to 3 colleges.
Oh, really?
3 different degrees.
Wow.
Finally, I ended up, getting one. But I went to 3 different colleges. I went to 7 different schools.
Wow.
So I was, not that I was notorious. I was just, maybe I was. I don't know. It's a mix of everything, right?
Yeah.
So I did all of that, and then it got to a stage where I had 5 years. This is after I started, rapping and making music and all of that. So there was about 5 years of my life that was unaccounted for. If you had to ask me what I did in those 5 years, I had nothing to show for it. I just won maybe a few tracks. That's it, 2 or 5 tracks probably in 5 years. Yeah, 5 tracks in 5 years. That's all I put out. That's and the rest of it never came out because logistically there were a lot of challenges. Somebody would walk out of the project, and then we had to find somebody else, and then we just didn't have the right kind of money, so nothing happened. 5 years and I had nothing to show for it. I wanted to be a musician very badly, not a rapper though. I mean, we're going to come to that in a second. My idea of music and being an artist is a little different. So I want to talk about that as well. But coming back to what we were discussing, I think there was this stage where it was, pay bills or continue being a broke artist. I think when you've been broke for as long as I was back then, I think it was only sensible for me to get a job and then start working on stuff. And another reason for me to do this was back then I was writing content. I was a content writer, not full time, but I was doing it to make ends meet. And I was doing freelance stuff. I used to do jingles once upon a time. I'm never going to name the movies though. So I've done a lot of jingles. So I was making a little money here and there. And what I realized was, if I had to do this, it is one, a long road ahead. Second, I'd have to compromise on my art. Now, I think the second point is what made the switch a lot more easier for me. I was left with 2 options. One was to compromise on my art. I'd have to do a lot of things that I'm not comfortable doing. I'd have to do these jingles. I'd have to do content. I mean, I love writing, but when you write for somebody else, it becomes something else. Yeah. So that applies for rapping, everything, all forms of art. When you do it for somebody else, it becomes something else. So I didn't want to make that sacrifice, or I didn't want to compromise. So that's when I decided to switch and start working. So I went to the Middle East. I was in Dubai for about 2-3 years. And no, not 3 years, maybe around 2 years. And then I came back. So while I was there, nothing, I couldn't obviously do anything. There was nothing, I could not make music at all for 2 years. So once I got back is when I had the same, I was in a sort of this situation where I had to decide between music and going back to corporate, making money and all. So again, the same thing. I started doing some freelance stuff, and then I sort of realized, no, there's no way that I'm going to be able to compromise. If I am going to be making art, it has to be, on my own terms.
Right.
I'm that sort of a person. I don't want to be doing stuff that I'm not comfortable doing. I don't want to be somebody that I'm not. And if you, if you can't be honest, then your art is not going to be.
And I think
even when you write political content, when people ask you to change the narrative, that pisses me off. So it's my narrative. I'm writing the bloody verse. So when you actually do stuff for other people and they ask you to change the narrative, when they ask you to strike off certain names from
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'm an absolutely no bars. What is it? I'm not going to hold back at all when it comes to expressing my opinions. I think all of us, had his be it Rajivan, be it Imbachi, whoever that I fuck with, all of them are that sort of
Yeah.
person. They are very explicitly open about things. They're very forthright, if I may. So I wanted to do that, but then I started getting, these what is it? That they wanted to take names off. They wanted me to write a certain way, and I was like, no, man, this is just.
Mm.
And even then, in 2017, even then, there was no option for you to put out music and make money and all that. Yeah, but these past couple of years, I think, has seen a lot of changes, and we are making decent money from the music that we put out. We're lazy as fuck. We don't hardly ever release. I think if we do it on a constant basis, there is money in it. And we are currently looking into options for management and in fact, we do have a couple of good things down the pipeline. Maybe things will be better and I would be able to finally quit my job and do this full time. But it has to be sustainable. Second, I'm going to do it on my own terms. Otherwise, I'd rather, scrub floors for a living, not make art. That's just my opinion again.
Yeah,
Everything that I've
totally.
said, this is for the viewers. Everything that I've spoken about is my own opinion. You're not obligated to, agree to it. You can have your own, but this is just my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously, your life experiences are what shape your opinion. So, I mean, everyone has a different perspective. And, the reason I want to ask you about the corporate shit is because, like I said, എനിക്ക് ഒരു താല്പര്യമില്ല, and I hate people telling me what to do. The exact same thing where I don't like my boss shitting on me or, telling me do this, do that. Like, I don't like that. And there are things that, go out of hand when you work in a corporate where, you are made to do even a secretary's job, but you have to do the high end stuff also. So, when those
Right.
kind of experiences come in, right, you're like, fuck these guys, man. I mean, when the fuck am I going to get out of this? I'm going to show you. But it doesn't really work like that, right? I mean, you have to make,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the same advice that I give to everybody who talks to me about be realistic, man. It's
Yeah.
not gonna happen. I mean, it's great to have a dream. You should quit, but don't expect it to happen tomorrow or in a fortnight. It's gonna take time. Good things are built, slowly. It's a process. And I think as far as the corporate shit goes, I kind of survive because my line of work is kind of interesting. I wouldn't say I work in training and development.
I thought you
So
worked in sales. You're not in
no,
sales.
no, I used to be in. I mean, I used to be in business development, and then I switched to training and development. And during the pandemic, I did do an odd job in sales again
Okay.
because I got laid off. I was working for this travel website. So
Yeah, obviously
once the
business is
pandemic
down.
started,
Yeah.
obviously the business was pretty bad. I wasn't laid off, but I knew it would come down to it. So I sort of left and joined a sales organization. And then I got back into what I like. So I sort of love, I wouldn't say love because I'm doing it for something else.
Yeah.
I like what I do. So I like knowledge transfer and, conducting sessions and training people and adult learning principles. There's a lot of psychology behind it. It's very interesting.
Right. I mean,
Keeps me sane is what I'm saying.
no, I mean, if you're able to tolerate, that other part of your life where you're working for someone, then, it's okay. It's not that bad.
So that's intolerable. But I think what is it? I'm emotionally constipated when it comes to all of that stuff. If you know what I mean, I don't really have any emotion. I'm sort of like, oh, what? It's just
Yeah,
let
and
it be.
I kind of get that. I mean, എന്താന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് like കുറെ കാലം even I had this frustration, building within me, and it's like it's not, nothing's happening, and I started putting more pressure on the podcast also, which I was doing because I love to do it. When I start putting pressure on it, thinking that ഇന്ന് പൈസ ഉണ്ടാക്കണം, ഇത്ര വീഡിയോ ഇടണം, it's not gonna work. It's art ultimately. It's creativity. You have to be in that right space in your head. Even, I mean, for you guys, it's even, I just have to talk, but you guys have to, do a whole different thing where you have to make things rhyme, and you have to have a story for what you're saying. So I mean, being in that right space is very, very important. And I just switch off. I've learned to switch off, where once I'm out of work, I don't look at anything. I'm like, that's a part of my life that I have to deal with right now. I'll deal with it. I'll not complain, because I used to, the first year of getting this job that I'm working in right now, it used to be so stressful because it's a startup. Okay, and I've always worked in these service companies, if like IBM, Accenture and all, where you work 9 to 5 and you're done. But ഒരു സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പിലോട്ട് മാറുമ്പോൾ the whole vibe changes. People expect you to work on Saturdays, Sundays,
Very
and
dynamic.
bro, I hate it, man. I just hate it so much. But then
I hate pressure, bro.
Yeah.
I hate pressure. And I can totally relate to everything that you've said. I mean, I've been there. I'm still there. And I think everything that we do on our side hustle sort of, makes it all worth it. The fact that we want to do this, I mean, I can make art on my own terms, because I have money that I'm making from a job, and I can fund it to my art, and I can make some money from it as well. Whatever I make from this is extra. When there had been gigs or whatever, it was nice. I mean, I could make a decent amount of money from this and my professional this as well. So it was nice. I mean, I was making money from both sides, and not a lot of money. I'm not saying that I was getting millions of dollars, and it was okay. It was nice.
Yeah.
It's always nice making money off of art. I'm never going to say that I'd be lying if I told you that it's not a nice feeling. It's a great feeling, making money off something that you love. But it again, once that becomes a profession, I think that might also become a little tiresome.
I think
for
so.
me.
Yeah. No, it makes
Profession
sense.
itself is tiring, not just corporate. Profession is tiring. Making money is tiring.
Yeah.
Having to pay your bills, that's tiring.
Yeah.
I don't think living a corporate, having a corporate job and making art, balancing both is difficult. I think what's difficult is the money bit that's in between. Living your average life, your normal life, that's what's more difficult than both of this.
Yeah. But don't you think that it's maybe എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നതായിരിക്കും, because I try to put out content, like in terms of doing these interviews and having these conversations, at least every week or every couple of weeks I try to do things. So there is a problem if I don't plan my time. ഇപ്പം ഞാൻ ഇതിനായിട്ട് കുറച്ച് ടൈം മാറ്റി വെച്ചിട്ട് research about you, for example, or anyone who's coming on the show, like there's a lot of time management that goes into it. I have to look at everything. Everything matters. Like if I step out today and go and meet my friends, then I won't be able to prepare for this. So it's like everything is on a clock, right? That's probably why I feel a lot more pressure, and being able to manage both these things. ഇപ്പം ഒരു ദിവസം ഇപ്പം എൻ്റെ ബോസ് എന്നോട് പറയാണ്, ഇന്ന് 7 മണി വരെ അല്ല, ഇന്ന് നീ 10 മണി വരെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യണം. പക്ഷെ ആ 9 to 10 രാത്രിയിലായിരിക്കും ഞാൻ ചിലപ്പോൾ പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റിന്റെ പ്ലാനിങ്ങും വർക്കിലിരിക്കുന്നത്. It's obviously a lot different for you, I get that, but that's my main frustration, where if things that I plan to a dot don't go according to plan, then I start to get frustrated. I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? I'm doing this job only because I want to sustain myself and do this, and when things like that start happening, I start losing it. Yeah, I mean, I know
think
there's no
that's sort
answer.
of an occupational hazard. The fact that you get wound up when stuff don't go as planned is an occupational hazard. I mean, you're used to things being organized.
Yeah.
So you expect the same in your art life. This happens to me all the freaking time when I work with people.
Right.
I mean, I expect things to be organized, on the clock. I expect shit to be on the calendar and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I if I'm working on a project, I run shit like that. I mean, it has to be, X, Y, Z things planned out. And in a way, it's sort of good, but if you think about it, I think it sort of spoils the experience.
Yeah.
It becomes more like corporate. I think that's why you might also be feeling a little frustrated when things don't work according to plan and all of that. We are used to things being, planned and working out on.
എനിക്ക് പിന്നെ I also have this OCD, so I mean everything has to be planned. Like yesterday I was talking to my wife and I was like, I was telling her in the morning that നമ്മൾ വൈകിട്ട് നടക്കാൻ പോകുന്നുണ്ടോ എന്ന് I was asking her. And she was like, why are you asking me this in the afternoon or the morning? It doesn't even matter. But then I was talking to her about this and I was like, everything in my head has to be planned in such an extent that I want to know what my day is going to look like. And it sucks being in that position. But, having that OCD, for, if a cushion has to be kept I'm that kind of guy, that sucks.
And ask anybody about how I am.
Yeah.
They'll tell you the same thing. So I'm very particular about things being a certain way and keeping stuff organized, stuff being squeaky clean. And so I sort of resonate with whatever you just said. And people
Yeah.
sort of get pissed off at me. They say that I've become an uncle.
Exactly. Yeah, but
But I don't care.
yeah,
That's
totally,
just
bro.
who I am.
It's nice to talk to someone who gets it, because a lot of people actually understand this side of things, where what's going through your head and stuff like that. Now, something I wanted to ask you was earlier was that when I was going through this tough time in terms of work and all this, I always used to ponder about what is the real meaning of life, and then I figured out an answer for myself. But I want to hear from your side because I've seen a lot of
Meaning of
posts.
life.
I mean, it's individually, everyone has a different meaning of life, right? So I just want to hear from you because I've seen a lot of posts, Instagram, you talking about the meaning of life and pondering about stuff. So have you actually, come to like this existential crisis until, when you're nearing 30 and, all these things coming together, ask these questions when you're frustrated with things. So have you actually, I know you've thought a lot about it, but have you assigned a meaning to life?
I think it's a constant process throughout your life. You assign different meanings to it. So if you show me somebody who's assigned the same meaning or pretty much stuck to what they thought life was initially throughout their life, then I'm gonna probably ask him a few questions and get some insight on how he did it. I don't know not many people
Right.
have stuck to the same meaning that they found initially. It's a constant process. I'm still evolving, but I mean, how do I put it? I don't believe in a great purpose and things working out for you a certain way. I mean, I believe in science though. I am a strong believer of science. So I know that energy is real. I know that even though how random things may seem, there's still a science to that randomness.
Hmm.
I believe in all of that. But if you ask me, when you die, the curtain shuts, and that's it. End of story. There's nothing more. There's nothing, nothing for you to ponder.
Yeah.
So don't break your head trying to figure out life. Just take it in the stride. Live your life to the fullest is all I can say. Do not think about life. Do not try to understand life. We're just not cut out for that kind of our brain cannot compute that much information is what I believe in, and I think it's worked out fine for me. I'm I'm not a sorrowful person. I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm happy. I've never been happy. So that's just who I am. But I've never been sad it's just a constant state of being, state of existence,
Yeah.
if I could call it that. Yeah, so that's meaning of life from me. I'm sorry if I complicated it more
No,
for you,
no, no, no,
but
no, not at all, bro. I mean, the whole, point of me asking this was because at some point even I realized that when we try to find meaning to life, it just gets more, it just makes it even worse, when you start thinking of, what is the point of all this? And I think, like you said, it's too complex. You can't really do that. You should just take
your
life the
brain
way it
cannot
comes.
comprehend that much.
Yeah.
But like I said, all I'm gonna say is this might be a little cryptic, because I don't see the point, or I don't feel it's right to influence somebody's thoughts on life, or influence somebody's idea about life. They should have their own perspective, is what I believe, and it's your own journey, not mine. I shouldn't be pointing you in a certain direction, which is why I have a major problem with religion and all these demigods and people who have the answers, people who say they have the answers, that's who you should be scared of.
Scared of,
Nobody
yeah.
has the answer to any of this. Rest assured, nobody has the answer to any of the questions that you're asking. Even the guy you worship, he probably doesn't have the answer for it. So that's just my thoughts. I think it's not right to point anybody in a certain direction. So the cryptic message that I want to give you is energy is real, science is real. There's a lot of stuff that happens outside of our perception. There's a lot of stuff that we cannot perceive. So put all of this together and think of it what you may. I don't know. Just these are all small bits that you can probably take notes
Yeah.
from, or yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I believe in a lot of the things that you just said, and those realizations came in, just a, couple of years or something, when you look at it now. And when you think of all those things, you have things in perspective, and you understand what's really important, and things like that. Now, something that you said earlier was that you are not happy. If another thing that I always try to achieve is happiness, right? But the problem with me again is that I have these desires in my mind that I'm never happy where I am right now. I have to push and get something else and get something else after that. So it's like it's very hard to be an artist, probably,
happy.
and be happy. Reason being that you always have things you want to achieve, right? And when you lose that, when you think that, okay, I'm done, I'm good, maybe your art also doesn't push itself to get better, or it's just a thought that I've had. I think a lot of people who are successful are unhappy in some extent. I'm not saying depression and that kind of unhappiness, but they always have desires to go and get something and do that, and that's what makes you who you are, and you're an artist, and that's what it is. So I think it's very, very hard to find peace, or always be happy with where you are also, right?
I mean, first off, when I said I'm not happy, I didn't mean that I'm depressed, or
I
that
totally get that. Yeah.
that I'm sad, or that I'm just not. Again, the word that I'd use is emotionally constipated. I don't know if that's an actual word.
I think
but
it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So I don't. I think I've spent all my emotions in the 30 years that I've lived, almost 30 years that I've lived. I'm content. I'm content with what I've done in life. I'm content with the music that I've made. I'm content with what I'm about to do. I'm content with this existence. But happiness is again a very
Subjective thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you might think that I'm happy, but the way I perceive happiness would be entirely different from what you think is happiness. I think I'm gonna leave emotions aside and say I'm content. That would be the apt word for the question that you asked.
Yeah.
I'm content with the way things are, and I'm content with what's coming my way. That's all I can say.
Totally, bro. I mean, that's totally understandable. Now, coming back to the music, when we look at where we are right now,
I think our podcast has been more about life,
yeah,
philosophy than music.
it's totally cool, bro. It's very enjoyable talking to someone who actually relates, who you can relate to, right? And these are things that the first time I thought in my mind that I want to talk to you was when Imbachi told me that you work in sales, and the reason was I work in sales too. I mean, I work on the back end, like sales operations.
3 years in sales, so I know.
So like I've seen how bad it can get when you have those quarterly reviews, and when people shit on you and be like,
Right.
where's the sale, and shit like that. So it's a very there's like you said earlier, ഒരുപാട് pressure ഉള്ള ഒരു environment ആണ്. So balancing everything, I want to understand from you, how do you make music, how do you work, and that's the reason I got into a lot of these things, and existential crisis and the meaning of life, and all of that. So now when we come back to hip hop, like what do you think, like ഇപ്പൊ നിങ്ങളുടെ കേസ് നോക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ, you've been doing this for so long, you have people like കരിക്കിന്റെ പമ്പരം, and you had other videos. I think Padiye was another video that you guys did. So those are all when you look at it from a source of revenue, income, exposure, all these things add up, right? When all these things come together. ഇപ്പൊ For anyone who's starting out, for a lot of these rappers, artists, they want to do this full time. What do you think has to change in the industry for us to, get to that extent where we can sustain artists to be able to make music and have, this as a source of living?
I think the first advice is that I would like to give anyone who's starting out is stop selling yourself short. These people should know that they are worth a certain, as far as monetary benefits go, you are worth a certain amount of money. Just because some people, have given you this idea that you have to do certain things for a certain kind of money, and that's all you're gonna get. Do not limit yourself. I can assure you things are going to be very different in a couple of years' time. And I can already see a lot of changes. I've been part of a lot of discussions, that might prove fruitful for the hip hop scene. Not that I'm also a decision maker. I'm just saying that, I've heard talks of things starting to change and people showing interest. Not that it's all going to work out, but yeah, the fact that they are having these discussions is sign enough that things can be different.
Right.
Labels are going to start looking at, Kerala hip hop as a legit scene. There are going to be management companies that will be interested. There are going to be a lot of event companies that would start looking into hip. There is going to be an organizational structure to this. So do not sell yourself short. How you start is how you set the trend for the rest of your career. So if you start doing gigs for 10K, it's going to take you a lot of time, but it's, I'm just giving you pointers from the mistakes that we made. Yeah. So if you start with 10K, these people are going to keep telling you that, no, we can't give you more. We can't give you more. Decline. If you have I wouldn't know what kind of financial situation you're in. So it wouldn't be right to say you have to decline. But even though it's your discretion, I think you should give it, a good amount of thought and then decide. If declining is an option, say that you cannot do it if you're not comfortable with the budget. And then the second advice that I can give you is, in the past 10 years that I've worked on whatever music I have, the amount of music I've made is very little. Yeah. So I've probably put out around 20 songs in 10 years. That's about 2 years, two songs
per year, yeah.
per year. And that's very bad. So you shouldn't be like us. Street Academics has been, but I'll talk about that later. Right now things are a little different, but you should put out music constantly. If not constantly, there has to be a structure to it. You shouldn't just bane off of the scene, or you shouldn't just disappear and then appear again all of a sudden. There has to be some sort of a method to the madness.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 songs a year. Make sure that those 3 songs are great. So that's the second advice. Third advice would be make good songs. Don't put out a song just because you have to put out a song.
Yeah.
I know people who sit and make songs in a day, put it out the next day, and nobody listens to it, and and they think it's a great achievement to have put out a song that you wrote in a day. No, that's not how art works. Some songs can be made in a day, some great songs can be made in a day, but if your whole portfolio, if your whole discography is filled with songs that was made in a day, and there's something wrong with your conviction. You have to sit, you have to write. It's a process. You have to get feedback. So make sure that you invest time, not just money. Invest time in your projects, and then there's going to be a lot of people that would tell you, what, we can get you the right these plugs that are going to get you into the right scene. They'll say that so false promises are going to be around everywhere. Even if you fall for it, don't be disheartened by it. The best thing to do would be not to fall for it. But even if you do fall for it, don't be disheartened by it. Things are going to change. I can assure you that I've seen and heard some pretty good things that are coming our way. and these I admire the work ethics that these guys have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been working on my album for 2 years, uh, and I know people who put out albums in 6 months or 4 months.
Yeah.
Of course, it again, a factor to this is my OCD thing. I keep changing stuff and I keep adding stuff. I keep judging myself, so it shouldn't be that bad either. It has to,
Right. There has to be a balance,
right?
right?
Yeah, right. It has to be balanced.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. The rest, just do your thing. Don't be anybody else. Don't be walking around throwing Crip signs in the streets of Kozhikode and Trivandrum. You don't need Crip signs here.
Right.
Don't be calling people nigga. You're not black. Third, don't. The rest, you get what I'm saying.
I
right?
get that.
Just be
And
yourself.
bro, I mean, what you spoke about right now, like I was speaking to some other artists also about the same, using the N word and why it's not okay. Like, I think in our scene, like there are a few people, and I love these people as artists, but at the same time, the music is good, but they have to, say the N word there. And I've never really got it as to why they, use the word, because like you're not someone who has to use the word first thing. And I don't know, is it some kind of we are so used to hearing it in the English language, and നമ്മുടെ റാപ്പിൽ കേട്ട് is it that these people don't know the history of why this thing has come about and why we shouldn't say it and stuff like that? But yeah, I just wanted to know why you think it is that people use it. I mean, I've never really been able to figure it out. These are smart people, they're not idiots. So
Culture,
hence,
again, yeah, they're not idiots. These are smart people that are using the N word, and they have their own reasons for it, I'm sure. I think ഇതൊക്കെ ഒരു cultural appropriation ആണ്, bro. I mean, if you think about it, ഇതെന്താണ് ഈ വാക്ക് വരുന്നത് എന്നൊക്കെ ഇവർക്കറിയാം. എന്തിനാണ് ഈ വാക്ക് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത്, എന്തുകൊണ്ട്, എവിടെ നിന്ന് വന്നു എന്നൊക്കെ ഉള്ളത് അറിയാം. പിന്നെ again, ഈ word, the N word, is something that was popularized by hip hop. Before that, it was, it wasn't something that you'd call somebody. I think NW had a big part to play in it. So just because black people say it doesn't mean you get a pass as well. I mean, I know black people who'd fuck me up if I call them the N-word.
Right.
Maybe I don't have a lot of black people, but it's not right. I mean, at least the people, we've never lived in the US. I don't know. I don't know if you have. I've never lived in the US. Maybe I'm only seeing half of the picture. I could be wrong, but I just don't think it's right. Until I've experienced what they have been through, I don't think I would have the right to use that word. I think reparations are being owed by different communities to different communities. The white people will always be in debt to the black people. We're not in the conversation. We're not even in the conversation, if you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Brown people were never there. Brown people are not going to, I mean, we're there now, but just because we're brown doesn't make us black.
Yeah.
So I don't like the, the idea of cultural appropriation, or using gang signs for that matter. I mean, I don't know if it's I saw somebody do it the other day, and I wanted to ask them. So Crips and Bloods, I mean, I know the gang history because I'm a disciple of hip hop. I mean, I've studied hip hop all my life. But would it make sense for me to throw the Crip sign on the streets of Kozhikode? Vallangadi kudi പോകുമ്പോൾ ഞാൻ Crip sign കാണിക്കുന്നതിൽ എന്ത് കാര്യമുള്ളത്? ആരെങ്കിലും വല്യക്കാക്ക് ചെള്ളക്ക് ഒരെണ്ണം തരും. എന്താ കാണിക്കുന്നത്? Oh, it doesn't make sense. I mean, be yourself, man. Don't try to be like Westerners. I mean, I love street fashion. That's another thing, which is again a Western thing. It's not a Western thing, to be honest. It's an Asian thing. It's a Western thing. I love fashion. I'm not saying that you shouldn't follow fashion trends and be hip and all of that. Yes, but there's a certain line that you don't cross. You don't borrow from their culture. You use your own culture, or your actions should reflect your own culture. Again, that could be taken in the wrong sense as well. Culture doesn't mean you have to be backward. I'm just saying,
I know what you're saying.
yeah. Don't throw crip signs and
Yeah.
do the crip walk in the streets of Kerala.
I think,
Doesn't make sense.
I think നമ്മുടെ സ്വന്തം കൾച്ചർ വെച്ച് തന്നെ നമുക്ക് we have to have our own thing as well, right? I mean, what is true to you and what is true to our people, I think we need to have that come out as a message in our music, because I've heard a lot of these younger rappers saying that I mean, this is when I was speaking one-on-one to them. A few of the guys said that there's not a lot that you can really speak about, but there is, right? There actually is a lot of stuff that you can speak about.
What?
Yeah. Because I mean, see, these people that I spoke to, they are people who like I don't know how to put this without pointing out to that person, but what I'm trying to say is that they've only gone through that kind of life experiences where they have to borrow from the Western thing and talk about tits or guns or cars. I mean, that's just their upbringing and what they've been through. But maybe talk about your reality a little bit more, and people don't want to hear that, the Western side of things, right? We can just go listen to the actual English music, right? Or the Western music that we're talking about, US hip hop. Or why do what is it that we are bringing in that's unique? So that's what I'm trying to say. When you have your own thing, like to some extent I even feel that our when ipa nammada aalkaaru like English la rap ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ, like let's say you guys did someday, right? Do you think that someone would choose this music over that, or vice versa, or something like that? Like as in ipa നമ്മൾ മലയാളം ഇത് തന്നെ ചെയ്യുവാണെങ്കിൽ, like that you're in that space, and Malayalam hip hop is obviously you're speaking in Malayalam, but there's you don't have to compare yourself to an English music. I know it's a very hard thought that's coming into my head. It's something I'm just forming off of my head right now, but don't you think that if
That's
you
a good question.
yeah, because I feel like if you like let's be very realistic. If you have music, Eminem's music versus someone in Kerala who's doing English music, who would I listen to? I mean, it's just I hate to say it this way, but I would listen to Eminem, right? The same way. You know what I'm trying to say?
But for me, the way I look at rap and you look at rap is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's again, I'd have to give you an example. Yeah, let's say you take take a boxer to a boxing match. She'd obviously look at technicalities, right? For you, it's just the other guy getting knocked out.
Yeah.
For him, it's duck, weave, jab. There's a lot of technicalities. Likewise, when I hear rap, it's not just accent. I think this is a major issue that a lot of credible artists who rap in English are facing. You have to sound American to be, and we also, the reason we have a sort of neutral accent, or the reason why we have to adopt somebody else's accent while rapping is because you guys don't want to listen to it. I mean, we have this in our head that it has to be American, or you have to sound foreign to be good. So when I look at rap, it's not just the accent. Yes, I look at accent. If you rap in a thick accent, which makes it difficult for you to flow, then yes, I look into that. Otherwise, it's other stuff. For me, it's metaphors, it's punchlines, and all of these things are non-existent right now. Yeah, if you talk to people, I know about all of this because not because I started out like this, because a lot of people sat with me and told me all these things, right? Right now, there's nobody to tell these kids that, that these are also stuff that you have to look into. But it's okay. I mean, music is a vibe, right? As long as you're giving the right vibe, it's fine. But what I'm trying to say is, English people are rapping in English have this problem because people don't want to listen to anything that's not American or not foreign. So when you actually put out songs, you get judged a lot. So you're like, maybe I shouldn't do English. Maybe I should go back to doing Malayalam. It's a constant thing, right? And I think for us, when when we started rapping, there was this whole scene in India. There was this whole movement that was rooting for the Indian accent. They
Okay.
wanted people to rap in. There's these dudes named Brasik Bhai, and I don't know if you would even
No,
be able to
haven't
find
heard
his
it.
music.
Okay.
He's from a bygone era.
Okay.
Rasik Bhai and a bunch of dudes who would just, I wasn't even part of those conversations, by the way. I was still a newbie in the scene, but I'd listen to these dudes talk about, rapping in Indian accent and all of that. But I think collectively everybody decided that, we were either going to go for a neutral accent thing so that you don't get picked up and it's easier to flow. So the reason, the primary reason that we pick a neutral accent is because it's easier to flow. Imagine, okay, let me give you a bar of mine. Okay, got more bars than the jail at Tihar. I work hard like an immigrant from Bihar.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I had to say that in an Indian accent, this is how I'm going to sound. Okay. What was the bar again? I got more bars than the jails of Tihar. I work hard like an immigrant from Bihar. This is how I'm going to sound if I sound Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that our language is bad. It's going to be hard for me to fit the syllables into, the beat and all of that. So it's just convenient for us to, adopt a different. Don't be fake though. I mean, don't pretend to be an American and start talking like them.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
Yeah, it's a very fine line. It's a very fine line. At times we cross it as well. We were not trying to be holier than thou and all of that. Everybody crosses that line, but try not to. Be yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, even though I asked the question in such a way that, we shouldn't do English rap, that's, not what I meant, because obviously, a lot of people can relate to that better. Like, if we have, like, I'm sure that your music is not heard only by Keralites, right? If പുറത്തുനിന്ന് കേൾക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാരും ഉണ്ടാവും. അപ്പം, it does make sense that you're doing, music like that. But, it's just this, it's like this constant state of, this questioning inside because I think a lot about hip hop. I was so amazed, bro, when I, when I started doing this, when I started listening to a lot of, these new guys who have come in, like, I want to take, names like GWS and KV and, Vikadakavi, these guys. And then you have guys in Ireland, like, Rayan and, Melvin. And, I was actually blown away, bro, because there's a lot of Kerala element that comes into their music also, but at the same time you have this Irish, strong accent that these guys have, and that makes it unique, right? That's what it is unique because of that, and there's no one who could substitute that. So that's what I'm trying to say, where, we should have something of our own where, no one can substitute it.
Right. Absolutely.
Unique,
And I think that the reason I mean, if you take Someday, the reason it's in English is because it's easier for me to write in English.
I think everyone, your thoughts are clearer when you're maybe, that's how it's for me at least.
Not just that, I mean, I'm somebody who speaks എനിക്ക് ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ഒന്നും കുറെ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് നല്ല ഞാൻ പ്രൊഫഷണലി സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോൾ മാത്രമാണ് ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് വരിക വായുന്നത് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓൾ ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ആണെങ്കിലും വീട്ടിലാണെങ്കിലും അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു എൻവയൺമെന്റിലേ അല്ല സോ മൈ തോട്ട് പ്രോസസ് ഇസ് ഇറ്റ്സ് എ മിക്സ് ഓഫ് ബോത്ത് ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ആൻഡ് so it depends on what I'm thinking about. If I'm thinking about something professional or hip hop, it's in English. But if it's something very katta local avanda scene aanengil Malayalamil avilla. So it's not that, but I think it's easier for me to write in English because of the way the language is. I think Malayalam is one of the hardest languages to learn. And അതിന്റെ കൂടുതല് നമ്മൾ അതിൻ്റെ അത് പ്രാസ ഒപ്പിച്ച് പറയാന്ന് പറയില്ലേ, ആ പ്രാസ ഒപ്പിക്കൽ ഒരു ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. അതായത് ഒരു എങ്ങനെയാ ഇപ്പൊ പറയാ, ഒരു റാപ്പ് ചെയ്യാനൊന്നും വേണ്ടി ഉണ്ടാക്കി. ഐ തിങ്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഗെറ്റിംഗ് ബെറ്റർ നൗ. ഓൾ ഓഫ് ദീസ് പീപ്പിൾ ഡൂയിങ് ഇറ്റ്, അതൊരു കളക്റ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഇവോൾവ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണല്ലോ. എവരിബഡി ഈസ് കളക്റ്റീവ്ലി ഇവോൾവിങ്. ലൈക്ക് ദ മോർ പീപ്പിൾ ഡു ഇറ്റ്, ദ ബെറ്റർ ഇറ്റ്സ് ഗോണ ഗെറ്റ്. Like നമുക്ക് ഇനീഷ്യലി തുടങ്ങിയപ്പോൾ തമിഴ് മാത്രം റെഫറൻസ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ആൻഡ് തമിഴ് ഇസ് വെരി ഈസി ടു റൈം. ഇറ്റ്സ് ജസ്റ്റ് ദ വേ ദ ലാംഗ്വേജ് ഇസ് സ്ട്രക്ചർഡ്. It's made for rap. Like Malayalam is not like that. There's a lot of booby. I mean, we sort of sing. We don't. It's not on grid. You know. But Tamil's like Tamil hits all of the snares like tuck 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 tuck. Malayalam is not like that. There's a lot of unintentional stretches in intricate stuff that you cannot include, or it makes it harder to flow. So I think and besides എനിക്ക് ഒന്ന് കാവ്യാത്മകമായി മലയാളത്തിൽ എഴുതുമ്പോൾ അതൊരു ഭയങ്കര അപ്പൊ അത് ഹിപ്പ് ഹോപ്പ് ആവില്ലല്ലേ. കാവ്യാത്മകം ആവണം ഓബിയസ്ലി, യെസ്, ഇറ്റ് ഹാസ് ടു ബി പോയറ്റിക്. പക്ഷെങ്കിൽ അതൊരു വളരെ മറ്റേ എന്താ പറയാ ഭയങ്കര ലിറ്റററി ആയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ബോറിംഗ് ആവും.
Totally. I think കുറെ പേര്, since we have a lot of rappers coming on the show, കുറെ പേര് പറയുന്ന same point ആണ് that, മലയാളത്തിൽ rap ചെയ്യുന്നത് is very difficult, and everyone actually starts with English. Even I was speaking to Tirumali the other day, and he was like, ഞാനും ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലാ തുടങ്ങിയ. But everyone finds that transition and starts to learn about Malayalam hip hop and all that. Now, another thing that we spoke about earlier and we were supposed to come back to was your thoughts on music. Like you were saying that you don't restrict yourself to hip hop alone or those kind of things, right? Yeah.
I think if you look at my playlist right now, I think only 40% or 30% of it is going to be hip hop. The rest is either rock music or, I love progressive rock. I don't like metal, but I love progressive rock. I love post rock. I love stoner rock. I think I know more about rock than... No, I wouldn't say that I know more about... It's pretty much the same.
Right.
I love rock and I love folktronica. I love ambient music. I love chill music. I love ethereal music. I love... You get what I'm saying, right? It's not just hip hop. So I think for me as an artist, more than just, I wouldn't say just bars, more than bars, putting out an actual record which has music and different instrumentation and basically it shouldn't be just a generic beat and then a guy rapping over it for me. For me at least. Bars are important. Yes, number one is lyrics for me, obviously. Secondary thing for me would be these musical aspects of it, instrumentation. And I think if you look at all of the songs that I've done with Street Academics, it's pretty obvious as well. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with Street Academics, or being a part of Street Academics. It's musically diverse and dynamic. It's not just hip hop or regular loops. That's another thing that's wrong with hip hop, right? I wouldn't say that it's wrong, but a lot of people just loop, find different loops and loop it together and just rhyme over it, which is again great. It's nice, but it doesn't work for me is all I'm saying. It's great. Some songs are great like that, but for me, it has to be diverse and complex, and maybe not complex. I'm not that great, but maybe a little bit, just a little bit. And I think that's one of the reasons why my album's taking forever. Instrumentation and getting the right people to work on it, having different people work on it. The whole process has been a little tedious. Now I'm kind of regretting the fact that I've added so much. And I think the people that have influenced me, to find this sort of a sound, or a lot of people have influenced me. Like Rajivan has, made me an old school head. I cannot listen to a record if the drums don't slap. It has to be chak, chak, chak. It has to be old school. Boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap. So that's why it's called boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap. That has to be there. And Vivek has influenced me a lot in terms of music. Because to be honest, I think if it weren't for him, I'd still be just a rapper and not be a vocalist or trying to, make music, make actual music. I would have been making just rap records and not music. I think he had a very big part to play in it, plus my musical influences from the past. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Right. And what do you like when you talk about this album? Ipo idu ningada Street Academics inde, you're talking about a Street Academics album and not a solo album, right?
No, I'm talking about a solo album.
You're talking about solo album. Okay.
Solo album.
Okay.
So initially it was, I mean, I'm kind of skeptical right now. I don't know if I'd be able to put it out as an album, but there are going to be singles coming out from it soon. Maybe I'll decide on the album thing later on. But yes, it is definitely in the works. Uh, as for a timeline, I don't really have, because I'm working on the Street Academics album as well.
Okay.
That's been happening for, I mean, full-fledged at least about 3 months, and we've made a lot of progress. I think we have about 6 or 7 tracks that we have started working with different producers. And this time around, we're working with different producers, and we
Okay.
on a few tracks we are executive producing it, which means just overseeing the whole thing. And I think we have been wanting, at least me, I've been wanting to do that for a really long time. Having my own musical influences added in. I think Harris and Rajiv and Arjun and everybody's been doing the same thing. They've been putting in their own 2 cents into the production bit of things. Obviously, we don't have the skills required to do it ourselves. And there are plenty of producers who are immensely talented and who have the skills and the mindset that's required for it. So it's a teamwork. It's a team effort. Things are working out really well right now. I'm 100% happy. It's gonna be dope. It's 10 times the album that Loop was.
Wow.
So I can assure you that much.
When Loop came out, Ipo Pambaram and all, for to become such a huge success for some, I think it has 8 or 10 million views or
Right,
something, right? So I mean that's exponential for the kind of music that we have, and you have 1 or 2 tracks there that go to that extent, and then people like, I think Karik also had a huge this thing to play in it, because it gave the audience, even though it was a great track, I think Earthgrime was telling me that it was very much an underground success to some extent, right? So that would have been huge for you, right? Or were you like, okay, whatever? Was that like such a big thing to have that kind of an exposure and people coming to you?
I think first off, if it weren't for Karik, I don't think it would have blown up like that. Maybe it would have, I don't know. We were getting pretty good feedback on it. We were, it was doing great. And maybe, I don't know if this makes any sense. If it weren't for Karik, we would have put that song out. It would have been our own song. It would have been an underground thing. So when it blew up, it sort of became, for me, it was, I mean, I find it everywhere when you're scrolling through reels and all of that.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
think reels were around then. So some meme pages would just use it for everything,
right,
for kicks and horrors. They'd show this dude who's shitting on somebody's whatever with Pambaram in the background, and I was a little,
oh my God.
taken aback initially, but then I was like, what the
Yeah,
hell?
all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, all publicity is good publicity. And to answer your question, I don't think I was ready for that kind of. But since it came out through Karik, a lot of the attention went to them, so we didn't have to, I see that as a blessing. I don't know about a lot of people, but I think the fact that we got what we wanted, minus all the unwanted attention, I think that was great. It worked out great for me.
Now, this is probably a really stupid question, but I still want to ask it because, this is something I always want to ask someone, but I've never. But since you guys have, been around for such a long time, and let's take let's take a hypothetical situation where you are sending one of your tracks to this, big producer, or let's say you're sending one of your tracks to Dr. Dre. Okay, I'm just giving the shittiest example. Yeah, what track would it be? Like, is there's one track that could sum up everything that's Street Academics is? I know you guys are very diverse in your music, but what is it? What is that one track?
I think it has to be Chattaka.
Chattaka, yeah, okay.
I think we've the amount of fun we had making that track, the story behind it, the dream that never fulfilled. There's a lot of story behind it.
Do you mind?
Supposed to be
do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, of course. So this was supposed to be our first movie song.
Okay.
Chattakaka was supposed to be a song that we made for a movie. And back then, getting a song for yourself, producing it, you do everything. You're not just rappers, okay? I mean, I'd worked on films before, but it was just rapping. They'd call you to sing jingles, like 16 bars, 12 bars. You get paid, you go, you shut up, get your cake, and you piss off. That was
Cake.
it.
Cake for what?
Cake, when I say cake money, you get your money.
Okay.
This is again a Western thing, right?
Okay, I thought
There's a lot of
literally
Western
they used to
influences.
cut
They say
cakes
cake.
after your track is done or something.
You get your cake and you piss off. What I meant
Okay.
is you get your money
Got
and you
it.
piss off. That's how it works. But we finally found an opportunity where we could make music like end to end. Initially, they wanted the BGM, background score, and everything. I'm not going to name the producer, the movie, none of that, because that would again
Yeah.
open
Unwanted.
up another
Yeah.
discussion. It's going to be like a Pandora's box
Yeah.
situation. There's a lot of shit that's going to come out of it, and I don't want to, discuss that. But anyways, the movie things didn't work out, and then we had the song. We had spent good money on it. We had gotten paid as well. We spent some good money on it. The mix was absolutely insane. I mean, if you listen to it, it's industry quality
It
mix.
is,
I don't think any other hip hop song has been mixed that perfectly in terms of sound design and all of that. It's great. It's great. I mean, I'd never listened to another song that's as as good when in terms of mix and all of that in the Malayalam industry. Not Malayalam industry, at least in the underground scene. Yeah. So that is one factor. Second, we made it. I think that was the first time that we started exploring our musical capacity. Until then, it was all Rajivan's 16 bar. That is still, by the way, that is still what we do. All of our beats are still made from that. I think that's what gives it that soul. So the soul is obviously going to be those basic things that we do. But on top of that, we started experimenting with guitar. And I mean, I've always wanted to, I'm a big sucker for riffs. So you play a riff for me and I'd just sit there and, drool. So we wanted to add riffs. We wanted to add different elements. And Vivek's a very complex producer. I mean, he brings so much to the table as a producer. So he added a lot of elements, and even our verses, accidentally they all were collectively talking about the same thing. Like it was very accidental. We didn't mean for it to talk about the same thing.
Okay.
And even the name Chattakaka, that name, it sort of that became our mascot sort of thing, right?
Yeah,
The
Dead
Chattakaka,
Crow
that
is
became our-
just, yeah.
yeah, that became our logo. I think for me it has to be Chattakaka, and I hope Rajiv and Harris would also agree to this.
Right.
But maybe sending it to a producer is a different deal. My favorite song is Chattakaka.
Your favorite song is Chattakaka, yeah. But Chattakaka, what year did it come out in?
I think it was 20. Okay, that's another thing. The song was in the making for about 3 years.
Wow.
So the song was made, but then the movie never came out, and then we had this sort of argument with this dude, and then things didn't pan out. The director and somebody, I don't know who, somebody fought with somebody, things didn't work out. And then we had the song, and Sai, Sai, right? Somebody. So if our story has to be narrated, I think we wouldn't be able to do it without Sai's name in it. And a bunch of other people as well, but Sai especially, because if it weren't for him, I think he's the first independent zero budget filmmaker or person who made music videos in Kerala. Zero budget. He's the first to do it. He sort of set the trend for a lot of people that did it afterwards.
Yeah.
But so he was like, we will shoot a video, we'll compile a lot of videos that we shot in the past. So this is partially Vivek's travel videos from Himachal and up north, and then Sai's stuff, and there are still things that I've not found out. I mean, it's still a mystery to me. At times I see, Ganapathiന്റെ photo കാണും pause ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ. So cuts ഒക്കെ അങ്ങനെയല്ലേ. So you
Yeah.
pause and you never know what you're going to find.
Right, right,
പണ്ടാരോ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഇനിയിപ്പോ എന്താ കാണാന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല എന്നാണ്. എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരിക്കല് മറ്റേ
yeah.
ന്യൂഡ് ഫോട്ടോ ഒക്കെ വരുമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. So
Yeah.
that's part of why I like that video. There's a lot of mystery to it. I love the music. It's a whole package. I had crazy fun making it. There was a lot of pressure because we didn't have any content for those 3 years or 2 years. I think it took 2 years, not a year and a half, 2 years, not 3 years.
Right.
So yeah, that's my favorite song.
Amazing, bro. And one last thing before I let you go, do you think music videos are really important for for the music to get more traction? Like if you look at just the audio versus the video, is it just a YouTube stat that the audio or this thing will be a little less than the video, or is it the other way around? Because the entire analytics of Spotify and whatever, right? So
I think it would be wrong to say that you need a video. At the same time, it would be wrong for me to say that you can put out music, just make audios. That's going to get you a lot of traction. It has to be a mix of both. You have to put out videos to market your content, maybe put out 2 or 3 songs. Not all songs have to be made
video,
into a video. That is again something that would affect the industry. I'll tell you why. Because if you keep putting out music videos, then your audio it's called a music video, right? It's not. So if that makes any sense, it's sort of self-explanatory. It's supposed to be a video supporting a music.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you keep putting out music videos, then people would have it in their head that music is just music video. It has to be accompanied by a music video, and then afterwards we'll listen to it. First we'll watch the video and then we'll listen to the music.
Exactly.
That's not how it's supposed to work. So for the album culture to come in here, for people to regularly put out albums and have have people listen to it, I think it's extremely important that people put this in the listener's head that not every song is going to have a video. You should listen to music. You should listen to whole albums. I think listening to a whole album is something that not many people do. You have to listen to an entire album to understand what people are talking about, right? Just make 1 or 2 hits, make 2 videos for that, and maybe the rest of the album would be worth listening to as well. People would listen to it. So it has to be both music and videos.
And I think if that culture of having a music video with every track that you release, that's also again in a way not sustainable, because most of our guys don't have the revenue to go out and get all these things together to build a video, right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money that you have to spend, especially when you don't know when the returns are going to come in. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനൊക്കെ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ what you said is right. You can't have that culture where എല്ലാ പാട്ടിനും വീഡിയോ ഇറക്കി അത് it's not sustainable also right now, because we don't have labels and all these things to support us, right?
I think next step is to have labels come in. Again, word of advice to anybody who's taken this up as a career or is considering taking this up as a career option. I think these labels, when they start coming in, there's going to be a lot of there is going to be tremendous opportunity. At the same time, people would try to make a couple of bucks off of your back. If you know what I mean. That's just how the world works. So make sure that you sign the right contracts, make sure that you meet the right people. And if you do that, I think, yes, there is going to be a good opportunity or a good wave of opportunities that are coming our way in the next couple of years. A lot of people are coming here, I can assure you that. The whole Netflix having an anthem for Southside and all of that is a little, which I don't want to talk about, but
no, definitely. I mean, it's good to see that things are changing. How things were when you guys started it's like you said, it's exponential growth when you look at it now. And I think since the pandemic itself, there's been a lot of attention that's come to Malayalam hip hop for some reason. I feel like that. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's been a lot of traction towards this medium of music. And
Yeah.
bro, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure, man, talking to you. It's so nice to, relate to someone and, have that conversation. So really look forward to everything you have coming up. If there's something we've missed to talk about, I mean, in the last few minutes, if you want to say something of what's coming up or,
Not
your
really,
music.
man. I mean, once again, thank you for having me. I mean, I love talking. Everybody knows that about me. If you give me the right
Right.
venue, I can talk. Not that I love talking about basic stuff, but I love talking about life and so thank you for those questions. And I think, yeah, it's been a tremendous journey for me as an artist. അടിപൊളിയാണ്. പിന്നെ ഈ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ ഇത് മലയാളത്തിലാണോ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലാണോ വേണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ള സംശയത്തിലാണ് ഞാൻ ഇത്രയും നേരം സംസാരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഐ തിങ്ക് ഓഡിയൻസ് ഇപ്പൊ ഞാൻ കുറെ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് സംസാരിച്ചു എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ കാണരുത്. എനിക്ക് നല്ല പച്ച മലയാളം സംസാരിക്കാൻ അറിയാം. ഞാൻ ഇതിന്റെ ഓഡിയൻസ് എന്താണെന്ന് അറിയാതെയാണ് ഐ ടു സ്വിച്ച് ബാക്ക് ആൻഡ് ഫോർത്ത്.
Audience, yeah, ഇതിപ്പം a mistake that I also made, not a mistake I would say, പക്ഷെ ഞാൻ തുടങ്ങിയപ്പോഴുണ്ടല്ലോ, ലൈക്ക് എനിക്ക് for some reason എനിക്ക് things, my thought process works in English, and when you're doing something like this on the go, right, ഇടയ്ക്ക് it's tough to go and translate that and then spit it out and like then you lose the flow.
ഇത് ചില ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ഇപ്പൊ ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ നമ്മളിപ്പോ ഓഫീസിൽ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എനിക്ക് ഓഫീസിൽ ഒരാളെടുത്ത് മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം, പക്ഷെ എനിക്ക് പ്രൊഫഷണൽ കപ്പാസിറ്റിയിൽ ഒരാളെടുത്ത് മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം, ബിക്കോസ് ഐ നെവർ ഡൺ ഇറ്റ്. അല്ലാതെ അതൊരു തെറ്റായിട്ടോ എനിക്ക് മലയാളം അറിയാത്തതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ ഒരു 10 ദിവസം ചെയ്താൽ തന്നാലും ശരിയാവും, അങ്ങനെയല്ല ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ അത് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യണ തൊഴില്, നമ്മള് ആലോചിക്കുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങൾ, ഇതൊക്കെ ഓൾ ഓഫ് ദിസ് ഹാസ് എ ബെയറിംഗ് ഓൺ ഇറ്റ്, റൈറ്റ്? സോ ഐ തിങ്ക് അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് മലയാളം പ്രശ്നം വരുന്നത്.
പിന്നെ ലൈക്ക് ഇത് ഇറ്റ്സ് അഡ്വർടൈസ്ഡ് ഓർ നോട്ട് അഡ്വർടൈസ്ഡ്, മാർക്കറ്റഡ് ആസ് എ മലയാളം പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റ്, ആൻഡ് ഇത് ചെയ്ത് തുടങ്ങിയത് ബിക്കോസ് ദർ ആർ വെരി ഫ്യൂ മലയാളം പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റ്, റൈറ്റ്? ആൻഡ് ഞാൻ തന്നെ അതിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ ഐ ഹവ് നോട്ട് ബീൻ റിയലി പെർഫെക്റ്റ് ഇൻ ദ സെൻസ് ദാറ്റ് എല്ലാം മലയാളത്തിൽ. ഐ ഹവ് ഹാഡ് ഗെസ്റ്റ്സ് ഹു ആർ നോട്ട് മലയാളീസ് ഓൾസോ, ടു ബി ഓണസ്റ്റ് വിത്ത് യു. അപ്പോൾ I mean, as far as people can understand, but even I'm trying to incorporate more Malayalam into the whole thing because it's ultimately a Malayalam podcast. Nammal uddeshikkunna, like this is the podcast space is where you guys were probably 10 years back. It's very new. People are just getting to know that there are things like this. A lot of people have asked me, why the hell will someone listen to you and someone else speaking for an hour and a half or two? But it's just the medium. It's long form conversation. It's right. When you speak in this manner, you have your actual thoughts come out. It's not like cutting something here and just taking things out of context. It's the real person that you are, and that's the whole idea, right? So
yeah, it was nice. I mean, cuttum paste ഒന്നും ഇല്ലാതാവുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ സംസാരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കാം. And the reason I took this up is because at times you have to, it gives you that ego boost, or not ego boost, it gives you that yeah, I think I'd be lying if I told you that it's not an ego boost.
Right.
It's good. It keeps you sane. It keeps you going. It keeps you want to do stuff, especially when you don't rely on social media for all this attention thing. I think these interviews are talking to people about music and all of that. I'm very private about my artistic life. I want to keep it private. Yeah. It's great that way. I'd rather be a normal person when I'm going out. Not that people come to me and take selfie right now.
Has that happened? I'm sure it has happened a lot.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
I've never.
I would have.
Maybe people talk to me. People tell me stuff. Yeah, your music is great, but not selfie. And maybe I don't know.
Okay.
But it's not something that I'm going to enjoy. Yeah. I'm very awkward around compliments. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
Cool, bro.
Makes sense. If
awesome.
that makes sense.
That makes sense, definitely. So thank you so much, bro. Thanks a lot again for coming, and yeah, we'll speak soon.
See you. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.